The Hungarian Grand Prix has presented us with a side of Max Verstappen that many thought that had been left behind after the 2021 championship. Emotions ran high and his actions on the track reminded fans of the era when he had an inferior car and had to fight hard for overtakes. The collision with Lewis Hamilton in Turn 1 nearly took both him and the British driver out of the race. With the RB20 no longer being the dominant car on the grid and heavily reliant on Verstappen's talent, could this indicate that the Dutchman might revert to his aggressive, elbows-out driving style? Verstappen's actions during the Hungarian Grand Prix were far from justified. From his reactions toward his pit wall to the crash with Hamilton in the closing stages of the race, his behavior was erratic. Verstappen blamed Hamilton for the incident, accusing him for braking while moving, but even his team principal, known for being disciplined and calm, did not defend Max. When Verstappen and three-time world champion complained about a potential investigation into Hamilton, his team principal responded, "I'm not going to get into a radio fight with the other teams, Max. We will let the stewards do their thing. It is childish on the radio. Childish." Earlier in the race, on the opening lap, Verstappen believed he was ahead of Lando Norris when he was pushed off the track. When his team instructed him to give the position back to avoid further penalties, his reaction was again furious and sarcastic. He retorted, "Okay, so you can just drive people off the track then. You can tell the FIA that that's how we're going to race the whole race." This is coming from a three-time world champion with over 100 podiums and 62 race wins. The emotional side of Verstappen, reminiscent of his behavior between 2016 and 2021, seems to be resurfacing. Max Verstappen's recent frustrations are rooted in a significant shift in his racing experience. For the first time in 3 years, he finds himself without the luxury of dominating races with substantial leads, which previously allowed him to secure victories while comfortably managing his strategy. This season, he has faced challenges that have led to a more competitive environment, where he is no longer lapping slower cars with ease. The change in dynamics has understandably heightened his emotions, especially when he feels that strategic decisions made by his team have hindered his performance. However, it is important to note that the same pit wall he criticizes for strategic errors in the one that successfully placed him in P2 at Silverstone just weeks ago. This inconsistency in his perception of the team's efforts raises questions about his expectations and the pressures he faces as a reigning champion. While Verstappen has enjoyed the thrill of dominant wins, his recent comments suggest a growing impatience with the team's performance and execution. His earlier praise for the strategy team underscores a complex relationship where the pressures of competition can overshadow previous successes, revealing the intense scrutiny he places on both himself and his team as they navigate this challenging season. In Hungary, Verstappen criticized the strategy, saying, "It is quite impressive how we let ourselves get undercut and completely ruin my race." This statement should concern all drivers on the grid, especially those who will fight more frequently with him at the front, like Norris, Hamilton, and Oscar Piastri. Despite the damage to his car from the collision, Verstappen was lucky enough to avoid retiring or losing significant downforce. However, when his team suggested he be checked by a medical steward, he responded angrily. "Let them send that medical delegate to the stewards to see if they're okay. I'm completely fine." This childish behavior indicates a worrying pattern for Red Bull. Verstappen often doesn't handle his emotions well, especially when under pressure. For example, in 2021, he struggled to defend against Hamilton without incidents, often leading to both drivers retiring prematurely. This could have happened more frequently had Hamilton not backed out of several aggressive maneuvers. A similar situation occurred in Austria this year. Verstappen didn't leave enough space for Norris but wasn't as angry because he finished P5 while his rival retired. However, when Norris tried to overtake Verstappen with a damaged car, Verstappen blocked the way, showing that these aggressive tendencies are not going away quickly. In Hungary, Mercedes outsmarted Red Bull strategically. Hamilton managed to stay within a second of Verstappen for most of the first stint, prompting Mercedes to pit Hamilton for an undercut, which succeeded both times. In the second pit stop, Verstappen had to catch Charles Leclerc, who was performing well on medium tires. Although Verstappen eventually overtook Leclerc, he still finished behind him due to the incident with Hamilton. During the third stint, Verstappen pushed hard on medium tires to close the gap to Leclerc. Despite the faster medium compound, the tires degraded quickly. When Verstappen's radio engineer advised him to manage his tires, he snapped, "No, don't give me that stuff now. You guys gave me the Fing strategy, okay? I'm trying to rescue what's left for God's sake." This explicit rant highlighted his frustration and hinted at a potential return to his emotionally driven behavior. The question now is whether Verstappen's emotions will become too much to control. If his behavior continues to be erratic, it could impact Red Bull's performance and potentially lead to internal conflicts. The FIA will need to monitor and possibly sanction Verstappen's behavior to maintain fairness and safety on the grid. In Austria, Verstappen's continuous movement under braking, which should have been penalized earlier, contributed to the accident. This pattern of behavior is troubling, especially when Verstappen doesn't have the best car on the grid. Despite his impressive performance with the RB20, developments from teams like McLaren and Mercedes are proving challenging. In recent races, Mercedes and McLaren have shown significant improvements. McLaren even managed a 1-2 finish in Hungary despite internal team issues. The Constructors' Championship gap is now only 51 points in favor of Red Bull. Although Verstappen still leads the Drivers' Championship by 7 to 6 points, a better strategy from McLaren could have reduced this lead further. In a competitive season like this, every point counts. Red Bull's dominance in the first 5 races and McLaren's mistakes in Canada and Silverstone have contributed to the current standings. However, Verstappen's erratic behavior could be a double-edged sword for Red Bull. It could either unleash a resilient version of Verstappen or create further conflicts within the team. The FIA's role in managing Verstappen's behavior will be crucial. Both Verstappen and Hamilton were called for a discussion after the Hungarian Grand Prix incident, even though Hamilton was not at fault. This emphasizes the importance of fair and consistent regulations. In conclusion, Verstappen's emotional reactions and aggressive driving style are resurfacing. This could impact Red Bull's performance and create internal conflicts. The FIA's management of these behaviors will be critical in ensuring a fair and safe racing environment. The question remains, will Verstappen's emotions become too much to control? And will this lead to his potential departure from Red Bull due to internal drama and performance slumps? Only time will tell.